The contribution of arbitrariness, of incidents in creativity is immensely important. There are people who define an event as a change of frame. And that is actually a very good definition. An event is a change of frame. Something happens, you stumble onto something, and that changes the way you feel. If you fall, you break a leg, your life changes on that moment. But also little things. You see something, you start to associate, but you have seen it arbitrarily. You just passed that shop and you saw it. And that is the role of the arbitrary. And it is very important to not only acknowledge that, but accept that not everything is logical and not everything is predictable and not everything is dogmatically fixed. So the arbitrariness is a form of freedom. And that freedom is important to be able to deploy your creativity.
Another possible way of working with creative thinking is working in an aleatory way. And the reason why we need aleatory thinking is because this, following what the abduction way of working does, opens up new possibilities, but makes them work in the here and now. So it forces us to stay in the hic nunc, let's say, of the situation, which is a way to be present to oneself. So instead of being preoccupied about something that can happen, you're fully occupied with what you're doing in the moment, and you take it from there. Of course, we have to consider that when working in an aleatory way, there are specific consequences that we have to take into account. And not everybody has the privilege to actually work in an aleatory way. So some people, of course, have to follow a specific structure. Some people have to follow a specific plan to achieve specific goals, especially when it comes to learning and education. We do not all have the chance to experiment, actually. So in that way, aleatory thinking can become tricky, and that's why we cannot work with just one level of creative thinking, but that's why we need a combination of different ways of working in order to be able to open it up to multiple people with all the possibilities.
The second pillar of creativity is aleatory. I don't know if I pronounce it well, but it's a concept which we derived from the work of John Cage. And what is it about? It is, in fact, a concept which relies on contingency. It's a concept which relies always on coincidences, on something that happens in your environment which you couldn't plan, predict, which you couldn't emphasize on beforehand. So it's something new that happens without reason. It can have reasons, but you don't know the reason. These coincidences are, for me, one of the most important pillars of creativity. It is, therefore, in education, very important, starting to use coincidences as the starting point for education instead of planning.